Ayo.
Yes, we want to begin with that story that you said has been making the rounds. It is still something that's touching for specialists in the sector, and that's the $1.4 billion approved for the rehabilitation of the Warri and Kaduna refineries. And guess what we have? The former chairman, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigerian Council, former SA to Minister of State for Petroleum, and partner Zero Advisory and Consulting, Joe Nwakwue. He joins us virtually in Lagos. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, I don't know what you make of this, new approval, so to speak, because for 13 straight months until February this year, our refineries have recorded zero profits. And here we are pumping money back into them. Can you hear me? Please go ahead. Could you kindly unmute your device, please?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the challenge. They took a decision to shut down the refineries less than 2 years ago. And the government, in its wisdom, has decided to we will rehabilitate the refineries ourselves, which most of us didn't quite agree with at the time. So it's not surprising that we are here. What we've been told is that they're going to raise third-party financing to do the rehabilitation, and there is some arrangement that will allow another set of parties to operate the refineries until they recover whatever was borrowed before it will be handed back to NNPC. So that's the state of affairs as at today. So I'm not surprised at the news that I knew all the while that they were packaging all that for the Warri and Kaduna refineries. So Port Harcourt is already ongoing. I understand it will take probably 22 months to do. So it's not surprising at all.
But what might be surprising is, I mean, to any investor, any businessman, why pump money into a loss-yielding enterprise?
Yes, I mean, so let me start this way. I think it's important that those refineries are revived. Those are still worthy assets that need to be operational. Where we kind of disagree is the model or the mode with which you do it. Most of us, I personally think the assets should have been sold to private sector operators to fix and operate. NNPC can keep some residual interest, equity interest, but certainly not enough to have operational control. That was what I thought the government would have done. But in their wisdom, they've chosen to essentially do it themselves with third-party money. So there are some risk to that, and we can look at it. But it is what it is. Government has made up their mind, and all we can hope for is the best outcome. But yes, it's running losses because it's shut down, but it's still an asset that we need to revive.
I'm a little lost, Mr. Nwakwue, if you would please forgive me. On the one hand, you say government shut down the refineries, but every year the refineries are budgeted for. The staff get paid every year, even with or without the shutdown that you talked about. And when I looked at the document, released recently, between February 2020 and February 2021, some months, the refineries recorded more than 10 billion naira loss. The least loss recorded in any of those months is 5.4 billion loss. Yep. Cumulatively comes to something in the region of 152 billion naira in 1 year, February 2020 to February 2021. And so I'm wondering, why pump money and why record the losses when they are shut down?
Okay, so those are, like I said, the assets were operational. In fact, the truth is that even when the assets were operational, they were accruing losses, and that's understandable. You need to refining is a low margin business. You need to be able to operate at probably 80 plus efficiency to be able to make money. So the refineries were never making money. Now, does it mean we should just shut it down and scrap it? I personally think no. These are still assets that can be fixed and made to work profitably. However, who should do it? I think the argument has always been who should do it. I personally think that government has demonstrated a lack of capacity to run those refineries. So they should eat the humble pie, sell it to private parties who will run those refineries profitably. So that's the difference. Now, just because you shut it down does not mean you will sack the employees. So the losses you see, there are still fixed costs, whether you're operating or not. You're going to have to carry the fixed costs, and that's what we see in the balance sheet, in the reports we see. There are costs that you cannot just cut off immediately, just simply because the plant is shut down. So, there are employees that need to be paid. I understand they've moved a few of them around, but you still have to maintain a minimum bench strength to be able to at least keep it safe. So there are other. So yes, you're going to be spending. I think it's between combined every month. The loss is about 8 billion naira to 10 billion naira on the three refineries. That has been ongoing, and until they become either fully operational or they are sold, you will continue to run those losses.
Now, as you
You can
said, yeah, my apologies. The federal government has taken this direction, just as you have said, using third-party funding. I don't even understand what that means. Get third-party funding to run a business that you have not run profitably for many years. But you probably want to, explain that one. But you have been former chairman of the Society of Petroleum Engineers in Nigeria, so you understand what the issues are. These plants are supposed to work. And I'm not just talking about the petroleum product. I'm talking about the byproduct as well. The huge jobs it would have created, the value chain, the entire value chain, that would have come to the nation that we have lost over the years. And it's all because, as you said, government has been the one running things. What do you think is responsible for that? And how can we be sure, if you can hazard a guess, that we will not go back to the same place we're coming from? We've had turnaround maintenances for God knows how many years, and yet this is where we are. So how do we know that this investment, if we can call it that, is not going to go the same route?
Well, I'll be lying to you if I said I mean I know that for a fact. But what we can say is this: the GMD had spoken. I think it was on. I don't know if it's your channel. He had laid out the plan. They were not going to be able to get this funding from the financiers if they did not give up operational control for the period that the refineries will be operating to recover the money. So part of the arrangement, I understand, is that they're going to get an operating entity, not an NPC, to, after the rehabilitation, this operating entity will run the refineries, recover the money for the financiers before the assets will go back to the owner as an NPC. So that's, I imagine the people bringing the money are saying, well, we need guarantees that we can get our money back. So we need someone else to run it. Now, if you think about that, then that would be the argument that maybe we should have just simply sold 51% of those refineries to other parties. Because, again, it's another. So when you put together this O&M, operating and maintenance agreements, we've had experiences in other sectors that didn't quite work as planned. So there's some risk in there. But like I said, government has taken a decision. I think we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
And that's hoping that we will not have, will not lose those fingers. But speak to this one as well. You are also aware that the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, has said that Nigerians are going to get some profits from the NNPC pretty soon. The first question one of my colleagues asked is, how much is going to come to me? Are we shareholders and all? But you've been with the Minister of State for Petroleum, with Minister of State for Petroleum as a special advisor. Are you hopeful? What can you tell us about that? How does that work? What does it mean? And are you hopeful?
Well, I'm hopeful. Nigeria is the owner of NNP, so the shareholder is Nigeria. So is the federation account really that will get whatever dividend NNPC pays. And I must say this: the current leadership, they are doing a whole lot to get that entity to work the way it should. But of course, there are a lot of challenges. I'll say this: it would be nice if they can declare dividend for once. I mean, Nigeria will get something out of this. But again, but I worry because we are going to borrow this. The 1.5 for Port Harcourt has been borrowed. We are taking another 1.4 for Warri, and so that's a 2.9. Remember, the AKK is borrowed funds as well. So the balance sheet is looking highly leveraged. That's something that bothers me. So if you're declaring dividend and at the same time you're going with two hands to borrow money for projects, it doesn't tell me that your balance sheet is healthy enough. So there are concerns around. So if they declared dividend, I'll probably clap for them, but the numbers don't add up. So that's one. Two, I worry as well because remember there is some agreement that was put together in February last year, 2020, by the ECOWAS ministers of hydrocarbon, basically saying that in the sub-region, effective 2021, I think January, that imported fuel into the region must meet AFRI 5 spec, and that by 2025, domestic refineries within the sub-region must meet AFRI 5 spec. What I do not know, and I haven't seen any documents, is whether this refinery rehabilitation recognizes the need that there will be need to upgrade those refineries. These refineries today do not produce AFRI spec standards products. So if we are saying, oh, we want to clean up the environment, we want not more than 50 ppm for fuel that we use here domestically, and the ministers have committed to it, and you have refineries that will not, upon rehabilitation, produce that required spec, there is a problem. That means you need to look for more money to upgrade those refineries, put in desulfurization units to get your sulfur down to 50 ppm. That is something that I haven't seen anyone address. We need to be told how this rehabilitation, because they've told us the rehabilitation, does it include upgrading those refineries to produce the products that we already have deadlines?
Well, there are so many issues to address. I would have loved to ask you, for instance, I mean, this planned NNPC unbundling or NNPC Limited as contained in the PIB, if you think that this is in a way tapering towards that one, do you think it is something going in that direction? If you can answer that in 30 seconds.
Yes, certainly I think they are trying to show that they are a commercial entity, but it's not unbundling. NNPC is not being unbundled. What the PIB seeks to do is to create a karma company. So a company that will run on purely commercial terms, make money, hopefully. But again, I don't think that's sufficient enough. I think we should have gone a step further to unbundle the entity as well for operational efficiency.
Well, we have to thank you very much this morning for your thoughts and hopes. Well, I don't know. You put it neither here nor there, really. On the one hand, you said hope, and then you paint a big picture. But, I mean, that it's just what it is, just as you have said. Former Chairman, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigerian Council, and former SA to Minister of State for Petroleum, Joe Nwakwue. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. So Sunrise is back after this break. Do stay with us.